Hello, hello. Welcome to our second, am I saying this right?
Yeah.
Paws and Pages Book Club
Yes.
live show. And we're going to discuss a very summary book called The Sirens by Emilia Hart. Ooh, I think this is the UK, and Sophia, you have the US edition. I'm
Yes.
assuming
Oh,
there's
that's
so
pretty.
many covers of this book.
Oh, yeah.
So
They're both
shiny.
very pretty. I like them. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, I can't pick either which one I would like most. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. They're all very
I'm
pretty.
sad I don't have the sprayed edges. This is just kind of regular.
Oh. Yeah, I think there's like a Waterstones edition that has like blue and
There
pink
is.
Yes. The
right
Yeah.
with the
scales, like the
sirens.
fish scales.
Yes, so pretty.
Oh,
Um, so the Sirens was our second book for oh my gosh, April and May,
yeah, I think so.
I think. Yeah. Um, so let's start with saying what we thought about it, like spoiler free, and maybe give a little rating. Would you like to start, Mary?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yes, I have to say, I finished this book a while ago, so I'm a little, I don't remember all the details. But I believe at the time I landed on a 3.5 as a rating. Because I did enjoy my time reading it. I did listen to the audiobook, which I really enjoyed. It was very nice because of the multiple perspectives to listen to the story. So I like that. It's not my usual, like it's not a genre that I love usually. I feel like this was much more of a mystery than I was expecting. I felt like it focused a lot on that specifically, and at a certain point I found it a bit predictable here and there. I was kind of hoping for it to surprise me a little more, and unfortunately it didn't, so that part was a bit disappointing to me. But I did enjoy all the female relationships that the book explored. And so those parts really intrigued me. And I kind of liked how the story all came together in the end. That was nice. But I would say it was an enjoyable yet forgetful experience for me. So that's why, like 3.5, I guess, would be my rating. I would be interested in reading more books by the author. I know she has at least one more, right? I'm not sure if he has.
Yeah, Wayward was her debut, I think.
Oh, okay. So there you go. I've heard good things about that one, so I
Mhm.
might read it eventually, but it was not exactly a favorite for me, I would say. Yeah.
How about you, Shannon?
Very similar thoughts. So
Mm-hmm.
I also listened to it on audiobook, and I don't know if that's maybe why I didn't love it as much, but at the same time, I really enjoyed the audiobook, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It'd been a long time since I'd listened to an audiobook, and it made me realize and remember why I like them so much. And that's, I think, what kept me reading. But I had very similar thoughts in that it seemed quite predictable. Yeah, I think maybe my expectation was a little bit too high as well
Mm-hmm.
after what everyone was saying about Wayward. And again, I think I would be interested in reading that. And I don't know who, I like the multiple perspectives, but I didn't necessarily enjoy being in one of them more than the other, if that makes sense. They all kind of felt a bit kind of thing. So yeah, mine, it was a 3-star for me as well. Not like a big favorite, but I still enjoyed it. So
I mean, that's good. How about you, Sophia?
I also gave it a 3-star. I I liked like this book was written in a very like descriptive kind of slow way, which I enjoyed, but sometimes I felt like that bogged down the pace of it a little bit. Like every little detail was very like laid out and described. Um, but and generally I like those books, so I'm not quite sure why it didn't work for me here. I also had a few issues with, not to get into any spoilers, but with a few of the plot points that like didn't quite get all the way tied up in the end. Even though I did overall enjoy the ending, I feel like it kind of took it full circle and was satisfying. There were like a few things that just didn't seem like they got fully resolved. Um, so yeah, I overall, like, it was a very vibey book. Like I
Mhm.
enjoyed like being in the atmosphere, and I'm glad I read it, but I think it wasn't like, it didn't quite work for me. So that's why I kind of ended up with a 3-star.
I think I gave it a bit higher. For me, it was like a low 4, I think, but that's mostly because I enjoyed reading it so much. And I think I was in the middle of a lot of nonfiction and literary fiction when I read this. So this felt like a breath of fresh air because it was so easy to read and so enjoyable to get through. So I think my reading experience also is really, really positive of this book. But I think if I would look at it more objectively, I would like agree with all of you that there indeed are some plot points that are a bit weaker. There's definitely some predictability. But I think I just found it so enjoyable that I did give it a 4-star. Yeah. I think we can now maybe discuss some spoilers because this book is quite plot heavy. So there are a lot of things we can discuss. Shannon, you mentioned this, but what did you think of the multiple perspectives, including Jess's diary, which I think it's all been a while since we read this. But I think it's in the second half. There's like a part of the book that's all Jess's diary, maybe towards the ending. I don't know if you all remember.
Yeah, it's because it's is it split into parts, and then I think I remember it's after one of the parts ends, and then you go into Jess's diary.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's like where you have this strange font where we get Jess's diary.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see.
Oh, of course, if you've read the audiobook, then you don't know, but you get like some sort of handwritten font where she finds Jess's diary and starts reading it.
Interesting.
Which I do always kind of love it when you get a diary because it feels so secret, like you're really not supposed to know any of these things. But then I think what you said, Shannon, where you said you didn't really have a preference for one of the POVs, I felt like the history part didn't work for me at all. For me, I think I'm a bit unique because I was so wrapped up in the fast pace of the mystery. I felt like I would like this story if it was like a novella or short story in itself, but I didn't really see like the added value for me to be interrupted in the pace of the current day mystery with what was happening to these women. Of course, there's a connection later, but I don't know, it didn't really work for me to have them over each other. I don't know how you guys felt about that.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the notes that I made on my phone now, and I actually preferred Mary's perspective over everyone else's, which was like the historical perspective. I kind of liked it when I realized we were going back to her because I think I really like historical fiction. So I think I enjoyed that aspect of the book more than the rest of it. And I think the issue I had, this kind of takes away from like the perspectives bit. Like I don't know, it kind of felt disjointed sometimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was like completely separate stories that you were getting all in one time, and then it just tied up at the end.
Yeah, I felt like because of that, I was annoyed at being interrupted constantly. So yeah, it felt like she had these loose threads, and at the end she was just like, "Oh, I'll turn it into a bow and we're done. Yay!"
Yeah, that's true.
I also felt like there were points where the diary reading was like a little bit unrealistic because I think if I like found this diary of this sister that's missing, I would just like read the whole thing. And she kept putting it down, and I was like, there's a huge spoiler at the end. Why are you just not getting to the end so you know what happened to your sister? Like that part to me just didn't quite work because the way that it was, she would like read a chapter and then she's like, oh, someone was at the door. And then like 3 days later, she'd pick it up again. It seemed a little unrealistic. But yeah, I agree. Like the different perspectives at sometimes kind of like made you, or at least made me like excited to like move to the next thing and like see where the other characters were. But then other times kind of like took me out of part of the story that I was really enjoying. So I feel like I was a little mixed about it.
Yeah, I fully agree with everything all of you are saying. I didn't really have a favorite. I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it would be Mary as well, because, you know, historical fiction is something that I really enjoy too. But they all, like, obviously all of them were pieces of a puzzle, right, that we were trying to solve. But none of them individually felt interesting enough for me. And the thing is, I always struggle a little bit with multiple perspectives because this always happens whenever I'm starting to get more intrigued by one of the stories, then we immediately switch to another chapter. And that frustrates me a little bit. I know that's probably personal taste, but here with Jess's diary, like a lot of you were saying, it felt a bit private, maybe too private and too, intrusive for us to be reading that. While also, and I agree with Sophia, it would make sense for her, like, because she's so worried about having all of these answers. Why didn't you just skip to the end or to the more relevant chapters, I would say? It would have been much faster. And, so that part was a bit confusing sometimes to me, and it took me out of the story because on one hand, it didn't really make sense. And on the other, I was not really comfortable with reading those pages. But anyway, and then with Mary's, I feel like at the start, there was a lot of info dump, I would say, that obviously was just the start of our chapter, and it would eventually become relevant information, of course. But then again, when we kept switching between her and Lucy, is it the other chapter? Yeah. I started being a little, not very interested in either of them. I was kind of just hoping for us to get the answers as soon as possible as well. And I think that was my main problem with the book, is that it did focus too much on solving the mystery and, all of these answers that we were hoping to get eventually. And because I found it predictable, it kind of diminished my enjoyment as well, because at a certain point of the book, I was also able to predict basically everything. And so it became a bit weaker for me, I guess, because of that. So, yeah.
I mean, you having said that, I did have a question that says, the book is very suspense-driven. Did you guess part of the plot, or did the reveal surprise you? Have you, Mary, has already told us? Mary and I did some reading sprints where we both started this book, and I think I was 50 pages in, and I said to Mary, I think I've guessed it. And I was so annoyed that I guessed every single bit in 50 pages. I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But I think part of that is because I've read Wayward, and I do think it's a bit of a one-trick pony with the way that she used certain ideas and plot points, and all men are evil, which I don't mind in a book, but I feel like in this way it kind of diminished the suspense element because it was so predictable.
And I think it would have been okay if it wasn't the focus of the story, like if we had some more things around it, maybe some more character development, or maybe like another story that we weren't seeing at the start. I don't know. Predictability isn't something that usually bothers me too much, because I'm much more of a character-driven person than plot-driven. So usually it's not a problem, but it was the main focus of the novel. So I was expecting something else, unfortunately.
That's kind of like one of the notes that I made was that obviously it starts with the whole storyline with, is it Ben, where she's at college and the whole she's strangling that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously you think that that's going to be a big part of the story, and then by the end you're like, that could have just been the only reason for that to have happened was for her to then go and find her sister because she had to like run away. Whereas the reason for it, nothing ever really seemed to, I don't know. To me, it seemed kind of pointless. It could have been something completely different that meant that she couldn't be at college anymore and had to go and find her sister. But at the beginning, you kind of feel like it's going to be based on why did she do that, whatever. And it is kind of explained at the end a little bit. But I went into it thinking that was going to be the main thing. And then you get like thrown off course and it doesn't get tied up until the very end. So I was a bit like, what was the whole point of that?
I felt like it was just a hook, like a reader reads it and is interested, and it's like a theme I think more authors and TV shows are exploring as well. So I kind of felt like she just wanted it in her book, like this discussion, but then it didn't really matter that much for the plot. I agree. Which I guess a theme like that does deserve a bit better, but
yeah, that's another thing. Obviously, bringing it up as a kind of theme again, I thought it was going to be explored a little bit more, and it wasn't really. So
that was one of the plot points that I feel like I expected to kind of like come around in the end a bit more than it did, because it seemed like at the beginning, like that was the main driver of the plot, like everything was changing because of that that happened, and then it kind of like fell off. I don't really know that it ever got like fully explained like what happened with that. So yeah, I agree. I think that because the story had kind of gone somewhere else, like that part kind of got a little forgotten.
Yeah.
The only thing I do remember was obviously, is it the prologue, the bit where you don't really know it's somebody giving birth, I think, right at the beginning, and you don't know who that is or what's going on. That's the only bit I seem to care about throughout the whole thing, because I kept thinking, like, is it Mary? Is it this person? Is it this person? And then obviously that does get explained. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
That kind of was one of the bits that was done well.
Yeah, but that needed explaining. Otherwise, it felt like a plot hole.
Yeah.
I feel like if he hadn't given, I mean, I did like immediately guess that her father had an affair with one of the sirens. But it was like, or then Jess's father. Yeah, Jess's father. Yeah, but I didn't really make the whole connection with that it was Mary who just lived for centuries. That was kind of lost on me.
Yeah, and it's like this book really, I felt maybe needed some more world building, because it is a very different world than we live in. But then it was like a bit of a mystery, and then had these diary elements, and so I was trying to like figure out the rules of this world while being thrown between these points of view, and I don't know if that landed really as much.
Yeah, you kind of gave an answer to this question, that there's an unexplained fancy element in a book. Did you mind that it was fake? Would you have liked an explanation? And I feel like, well, like fantasy, magical realism, I'm not really sure. I'm always like unsure about what category a book would fit in. But Sophia, you would have liked it more if it had been like an actual fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I loved, like, I actually liked the mystery parts more than the historical parts. And I liked some of the fantasy elements, but I feel like it was trying to be a lot of different books. And so if it chose one, then maybe that would have been more effective. But I don't know that I have a preference for it being fantasy over one of the others. Like if it was just a mystery book, I probably would have been fine with that too.
If it like had a totally different reveal at the end,
Yeah.
that it was nothing fantastical. Yeah, somehow I feel like that would have worked really well too.
Same.
That it was just a more psychological.
Oh, I would have loved that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
I feel like the author could have been really clever with that. And could have been surprising as well, because while you're reading this, you're constantly thinking, oh, this is magical, this has fancy elements. And then if in the end it turned out that she was fooling us, that could have been fun as well. But I don't know if I understood the whole Sirens thing and how they kept on living. Did you guys understand it?
I don't think so.
No, I didn't get it. And I think for me personally, I'm a bit strange when it comes to like magical realism. I love magical realism, but it has to be done in a very specific way. So when I think of things like The Miniaturist, things that I don't like it to be explained. I like it to be a mystery. And then I also, on another hand, in terms of fantasy elements, I've never liked the two kind of fantasy tropes I've never enjoyed are sirens and fairies. They just annoy me. I don't know why. They just annoy me. So I think going into this, I kind of knew that might happen. So I kind of like batted that away, just to think like that's a personal thing for me, that I'm not going to like that side of it, and that's fine. But it's interesting to hear your thoughts on it as well, that maybe it could have been done better.
How about you, Mary? Are you pro Sirens or?
Oh, I love Sirens usually, and I don't necessarily need for there to be an explanation exactly. Like I don't mind when books are a bit vague when it comes to, especially magical realism. I would say with fantasy, I do like some more of a world building in some aspects, but maybe this will not make any sense. But I don't need it to be explained necessarily, but it has to be a believable world. It has to make sense somehow. I need to believe that this world maybe could actually exist, lost, or I need to feel lost in this world, and unfortunately that didn't really happen here, probably because I never really understood really how it worked, like you were saying, Milena, like how does the siren part work exactly. I don't think the book was very clear on that, and then again, it didn't need to have like maybe a scientific explanation, nothing of that, but maybe some more context perhaps. I'm not really sure the piece that it's missing, but I know it's missing something, because I didn't fully believe it. It felt too random, and maybe like you were saying as well, it felt like a big mixture between different genres, which is fine, but I'm guessing it didn't really commit fully to any of them, so it became a bit confusing, I would say. And in the end, it didn't really make me believe the story and how the entire siren system works, I guess. Yeah, but I don't know how it could have been better, honestly, because I don't know how to explain what's missing for me either. Maybe it's also a bit personal, I guess, but yeah.
The one thing I would say was I did kind of feel like in the historical aspect, when they were talking about like the girls when they were in Ireland, when they were younger, and not to go near the water and things like that when they were told by their father, that to me was more believable.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
But then once they were on the ship and they got moved to Australia, I don't know why it just kind of lost. I don't know if it's the time period maybe, or the setting, or the world building maybe wasn't good enough in the Australia side of things, but that's kind of where it lost me a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I felt similar. I think my biggest issue was the fact that it was no way explained why they lived so long. So I was expecting that we got like a third or fourth generation who was Jess's mother, and not like I think that was the point where I felt like, okay, I get it. It's because they can only leave after they have done their job. But I don't know. That felt so strange to me, and that was the part where I couldn't really like get on board with it. But I do also know that the author used a lot of Celtic myth. I feel like so maybe all of those elements are tied to a certain fairy tale that I don't know. So it also feels strange to criticize it if it's like using myth that a lot of people do know. So I don't know. But I was kind of fine with it because I enjoyed it so much. But I agree with what you said, Mary, that at some points it was like, okay. Not super believable.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, this is my favorite thing I want to talk about. How do you feel about the final reveals? Like Max is Lucy's dad. Dad is actually biologically the grandpa and the actual biological dad. And then Mary is Jess's mom. Did you buy it? I think you've answered this all, but
Yeah. Yeah, I guess because we could see it coming, right?
yeah.
That's the answer. I guess. I mean, it's not that it's a bad twist. I don't think it's bad by any means, but it's just because you can see it coming, it's not exciting. I guess that's what it was for me. Like it's not a bad plot story, I guess, but it's not great either. Yes. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt like when she was reading Jess's diary, I was like, you don't see this coming. You don't know what's happening. It took her forever. I mean, I do understand that like having a realization in a book versus over your own life is very different. But I did feel like she pretended like this was his big revelation. Well, like every reader was like, yeah, hon, we know.
I think there also were some breadcrumbs with the dad situation, because I like the whole time I think her mom, Lucy's mom, was always described as like she didn't relate to her and like it didn't quite work. But then the dad was like, oh, I have like we're similar in these ways. So I feel like the breadcrumbs were there, but maybe the breadcrumbs were a little too obvious of where we were going.
Well, like their ears, they had similar ears. It was something like that. That I felt like, okay, the dad has to be biologically related because otherwise we would not discuss this.
Right.
But yeah, that was indeed a little bit too obvious. I agree.
Yeah.
But also the fact that it was not the creepy teacher, but Max, I feel like is
Yes.
the type of twisty thing that's done so often that it
Mm.
almost feels like it would have been a bigger twist if it actually wasn't Max.
Mm.
Yeah. I think the
Sure.
thing that got me was the skin condition. I was
Yeah.
like,
Right. Yeah.
because did Lucy know that her sister had it or not? But then obviously growing up with her and seeing that she wore like long sleeves all the time, and like, would you not in your head question that? Or
Yeah.
like, I don't know. To me, that was really unbelievable. I was like, surely when you have the same skin condition and maybe you sometimes want to wear long sleeves and cover it, you'd see your sister doing the same thing and be like, oh, hold on a second. Or your sister doing the same thing and be like, oh, you know, what's going on here? No.
Well, I feel like you can be like, oh, it's something genetic because she's my sister. But then if neither of your parents have it,
Yeah.
then it's a bit weird.
Yeah. I mean, and it would come up, in a conversation eventually, I guess. I don't know. Right? So.
And then I did kind of feel like the end was rushed. So there was a long period in the middle where she seemed to be on, is it an island? An island? Waiting for her sister. And that was another thing that kind of got me. You turn up, the door is unlocked, your sister isn't there, some random person you don't know is like come in and explaining all this stuff to you, and you're just like taking your time waiting around to see if she turns up rather than like calling the police. Like, I was just a bit like, really?
Yeah.
Is this what you would do? Okay, that's not what I would do. And then you were like wandering around the town talking to these random people, and I'm just like, no.
Where's your sister?
Yeah.
It's like their behavior was to make a good story for us.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But you can tell, and that's bad.
I feel like we're really roasting this book. Well, I actually enjoyed it, but
It's a fun.
I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was a fun time.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. The decision making of the parents is never very clear. Do you think they handled their parenthood well? I thought it was very messy.
Which parents? Jess's parents.
Yeah, like the parents figures that actually acted as parents.
Hmm.
I mean, they lied to both their daughters
Yeah.
the entire time, which I get it if Jess asked them to lie. I thought that was a bit different.
Mhm.
But yeah, I felt like they were very loving but very messy parents.
Yeah. I feel like messy is the best word, even if they had good intentions, which I believe they did, but maybe the communication between all of them should have been better for sure. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I also feel like it was so much that they didn't actually discuss that was not present in the book, because I did like, I think, was it the epilogue where we discovered what actually happened with Jess, like how she was born and stuff. I think it was the epilogue, but I felt like there was so much pain on the like I'm just gonna call her the adoptive mother and things that happened to her that was just glossed over, and I felt like that's like a hard, difficult topic that could have given this book so much depth, and we're just the same with the whole Ben situation, like such difficult topic that we're just walking past and not really because that adoptive mother, she has a lot of love to give, but also a lot of very painful things, I feel, to be okay with. And we barely got to know her, which I kind of thought was a lost opportunity.
Yes, I think that's the problem, that they weren't really fleshed out enough. They were just there for like to help the plot like pass through to the point where, like you say, I feel like her character would, like, the story from her perspective could be really interesting.
Yeah.
Like a spin-off from the adoptive mother's perspective. And the father to me came across as I didn't like him. I don't know. I think the whole affair thing annoyed me. So then I was like, well, I don't like you now.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. I'm just like, we're meant to like you.
I found it was so strange because he was likable and I liked him, but he did this horrible thing. And I'm like, how are you supposed to be a likable character? Because doing that while you and your wife are going through that is such a horrible thing to do. And
Yeah.
I don't care that you feel guilty, you still did it. And then it's supposed to be just fine.
Mm.
And then I was like, was that meant to play into the whole siren song thing? Because obviously the sirens are known for like singing and like compelling men in. And I was like, is that kind of what was meant to be? Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know. But I've
This is
got a whole other thing with the siren song and the justice thing. I think that was my biggest issue with the book.
Wait,
From
can you tell me more
like
about
from
that?
a feminist perspective, the whole it was Mary's job or the sirens' job to protect women, but they did that by killing any man in the area that did some kind of like wrong. And I'm like, who says it's your job to decide what justice they have to serve, if that makes sense? Like,
Yeah.
just because they've done a bad thing, does it mean that they deserve to die? Like, in my opinion, no. So that's I just I couldn't get on board with that.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're looking at it from that perspective, Mary is actually a bit of a villain because she both does those things. So she killed a lot of men and then she birthed Jesse while having an affair with a married man. So she can also be a bit of a villain. I mean, I didn't read her that way, but if you're looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah,
And
maybe an antagonist for sure. Yeah.
yeah, this quote is from someone smarter than me on the internet. And they said, the novel reinterprets the siren myth, the siren song becomes a call for justice, protection, and sisterhood, rather than a tool of seduction and destruction. Well, actually, it is destruction.
Yeah, I
Because
was
they
going to
were
say
killing
that's
men.
very relative. Yeah. Also, justice. You could also question that. Protection, I guess. Sure. Like every single one of these elements is questionable. It really depends on the perspective that you're seeing it from, I guess, which could have been a very good theme to explore in this book. But yeah.
But again, it's the whole. And then I kind of finished it, and I was like, "Am I a bad feminist? Am I meant to like this
No.
part? Like, I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Because then, from my point of view, I'm like, you're just protecting women. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
And what
And
about
also,
the women who do wrong to men? Like, what happens to them? You know, it's not equal.
I think that is kind of part of their history in Ireland because they were women who hurt men, and the actual government justice system said, okay, fine, we don't care what happened before that. You did something bad to Australia with the two of you. So I feel like they were like, okay, they are judging us very harshly, and the men did not get punished at all for bothering us. So we are going to do the reverse. So in that way, I feel like it's maybe a little bit 18th century what they did, but I did see it as a response towards that. So I didn't really notice that I had any issue with, but like women unhinged is a favorite theme of mine. So I feel like I can be okay with that. But if you're looking at it from a serious point of view, it's very problematic what they did.
and also like Ben did a lot of bad things, but I feel like if I woke up and someone was trying to murder me, like, I don't know, I think that I would call the police. Like, I would, like that felt a little unrealistic too.
Mm-hmm. But I guess that also plays in with the fact that Ben wasn't punished at all for the things that he did to a woman.
Right.
So it was her response to be that siren.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe it's a little bit too superficial to have a very morally based discussion about it, this book. But yeah, let's see if I had any other questions. Oh, yes, we kind of discussed this. In what way does this book depict the sea as feminine and freeing? What did you guys think about the scene when the ship went down and Mary and her sister, whose name I'm forgetting, something with an E, I think, rescued a few of them? How did that work for you, that scene?
I've forgotten. Is that where they like swim through the ship and free some of the other women?
Yeah.
I think that's why I like the historical aspect, because obviously there was that whole storyline where there was the female captive that was like sleeping with the like shipman to get food and things, and they were like judging her really harshly for that. And then at the end, obviously, she's one of the women I think that they like free.
Yeah.
So I kind of enjoyed. I liked that bit. And the thing that I think about when you say about the sea, I think about the cave that comes up quite a lot.
Yeah.
And how is it both Jess and Lucy go down there and they feel like stronger when they're like by the sea. So I see maybe it makes them more like stronger kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like where they're protected because of the sirens in the sea. And I feel like they're safe from men as well. I found the scene where, I'm just gonna call him the creepy teacher because I don't remember his name. But when Jess took him into the cave for days, I was like, wait, what?
Right.
Yeah, that was so funny. I loved that bit.
Yeah.
He was being like such a child, basically being like, I'm scared.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment when he realized that Jess didn't actually want to protect him and she did not agree with him and that he actually was a piece of shit. And then, of course, losing his wedding ring. I was glad that he didn't have like this beautiful happy ending.
Same.
I don't remember now. Does he die? Did she kill him?
I think they fought and she killed him kind of accidentally.
Okay.
Kind of accidentally.
I think it's interesting how like the sea is very freeing in like the historical perspective, but then in the modern perspective, it's like something to be feared. Like, don't go near the water. The water like makes their skin break out in this rash of kind of like, I don't know what the right word for it is. Like, it's exposing kind of in the modern. So I thought that dichotomy was interesting.
Yeah, I feel like it shows them becoming the sirens.
Yeah.
Who they are supposed to be.
I quite like that. I've not thought about that.
Yeah. I did like the way that they use skin in the book and how they were viewed because of that. That was like a bit of a unique part that I did not really expect to read in a book, but I did really like.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to know whether the depiction was like, obviously people who have skin conditions like eczema and things like that, if they felt like it was maybe a kind of, because that's what I thought they were going to go down the line of. I didn't realize it was going to tie into sort of like the magical realism kind of aspects of it.
Yeah, I also don't know if the experience would be a realistic and respectful one. But I did kind of make the link with like how their skin would change to withstand the water instead of having they had a good reaction to it actually instead of a bad one. Which, yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoyed this book. I had the same with Wayward, where I felt like, okay, this may be a bit predictable. It's not the best book I've ever read, but what fun.
It's a fun read.
Yeah, it's a very fast read as well. I think I said in a video, like, if you're in a reading slump, these are perfect books to get you out of it.
That's true.
I think it's an art as well to be able to write such a engrossing book that you can read in a short period of time, and that's just really fun. I feel like this is one of those books where the writing never really gets in the way of you having fun, although you, Sophia, said that it did a little bit for you, that was too descriptive for the mystery bit.
Yeah, I think I mean I did like the description a lot. I feel like I was like transported. I liked it, but it did feel, I guess it was just like more of a like acquired taste. Like if you like descriptive writing, I think you'd really like it. But if you're more like, I'm trying to think, like police procedural, like getting through, it's definitely not that vibe.
No, I don't think so. Was there anything else anyone wants to add about this book?
Did you had anyone else read Wayward? Melina, did you read Wayward?
I did, yes.
How did you compare? Like, did you like them similarly or one more?
Well, Wayward had 3 timelines and 3 perspectives, so there is, I guess, more to enjoy, and I think the characters were a little bit better. But this was just a more fun read for me because there were a few storylines in Wayward that I felt like, yeah, I don't care, move on, move on, and I didn't really feel like that with the Sirens. But
Mm.
I know that most people prefer Wayward, so
Mm.
if you're in for another similar reading experience, I think you could have a lot of fun.
Is Wayward, because I don't know if I've seen people holding it up, is it longer? It looks like it's a longer book.
No, it's the same. It's the
Oh,
same.
okay. No, that's fine.
I mean, I do have the hardcover, but it's like back there. But yeah. But it's also historical. I think it's 1 contemporary and 2 historical in different times. But it's just a lot about men being shit again. Yeah, which is, I mean, come on, it's fun.
I do enjoy that aspect.
Yeah.
Is it it's like a witchy book, right? Is that, or am I thinking of the wrong book? Or maybe that's
No,
a
I
spoiler.
think there is some. No, I think it's like magical realism witchy. It's not like
Okay.
actual witch. Yeah, it's actually thematically it's very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it'd be really interesting for the author to do just a historical fiction without the
Oh, yeah.
contemporary element, because I think that would be really good. So,
Yeah.
like I say, I did like the historical aspects
Yeah.
more so than the modern day.
You mean like, for example, if this book had just been Mary's story, like their childhood and then on the ship and then maybe not the Australia bit, but just them on the ship?
Yeah, maybe sort of like in a bit more depth, and maybe if like they're maybe going back a sort of what's the word, generational kind of story
With their mom as well.
Yeah, would be really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Especially if it had been very character based.
Yes.
Been nice. Yeah. Well, that was not the book we read, but maybe someone can leave us a recommendation of a book like that. So before we go, we should let you know what our next read is going to be. And of course, I don't have it with me right now, but that is Ocean Vuong's new book. It's called The Emperor of Gladness. And I guess we'll discuss it. Oh, it's maybe going to be a bit difficult to find a date because of all the holidays and stuff. But I guess probably somewhere in August, I think.
Probably.
Yeah. But then we will see you in August with that book. Thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you again very, very soon. Bye.
Bye.